Hello, I'm Sean Foreman, and welcome to this week's Issues. With Election Day just weeks away and early voting set to begin on October 24th, on today's program we're taking a closer look at the race for State Senate District 39. It includes the Everglades, Florida Keys, and western portions of Miami-Dade County. We'll speak to both candidates, with each getting 10 minutes to discuss issues ranging from insurance rates to the environment. We begin with Florida State Senator Ana Terry Flores, who currently serves District 37. Senator Flores, thank you for joining us today.
Thank you so much for having me.
We have so much to talk about. I want to start with some policy issues, and then we can get into the politics of the race later on.
Absolutely.
Okay, so fantastic. So, of course, we had a storm come through Florida last week. We were spared in South Florida, North Florida, not so much. But what can you tell us about Citizens Insurance rates? Are they keeping them steady for us?
So for years, my time in the legislature, I have been a strong advocate on behalf of consumers to ensure that insurance rates stay lower than what the insurance companies want them to be. I have consistently been against insurance increases. I filed legislation to cap insurance rates. And this latest issue is that while the storm did spare us, we expect that our insurance rates down here should not go up as a result of Hurricane Matthew. Because up in North Florida, there are a small number of Citizens policies. And so just because they had a storm does not mean that our rates should go up. But the Office of Insurance Regulation and the Commissioner of Insurance recently approved an increase of 9% for Dade County, which is something that is absolutely unacceptable. And so for the first time in a very long time, there will be an administrative appeal of that decision, something to which I have joined in full support, because as I said publicly, is that this is a slap in the face to consumers, to legislators, to have our insurance rates go up at a time where we see that claims and policies have gone down.
Why do they want 9% increase?
Well, the reason that they've given me is because there has been a rise in fraudulent water loss claims. And so in my conversations with the insurance commissioner, I've said, listen, if you know what the problem is, if the problem is fraud, then let's go after the fraud. Let's not burden those of us who are doing everything right, who are struggling to pay our insurance rates. Don't burden and punish us, because there are some individuals across the state, not just in Dade County, who have submitted fraudulent claims. And so that's what we have to go after, and that's why we're appealing this decision.
And if you're reelected to the Senate, what do you think the chances are of your bill to cap the increases of getting support and going through?
Well, listen, we have passed bills that have capped the increases at 10%. So had there been no increase, no cap, these rates could have been going up by 20, 30, or 40%. What I am going to be proposing next year is for us to go back to an elected insurance commissioner. Florida years ago did have an elected insurance commissioner, have someone that was directly accountable to the people. Because insurance is something that it's not an option. If you drive a car, you have to have insurance. If you have a home that has a mortgage, you have to have insurance. So the insurance is essentially a tax, and someone who's going to be in charge of increasing our taxes, our insurance rates in this case, should be accountable to the people.
Okay, well, we'll have to have that on a later program
Yes.
to discuss whether to have an elected insurance commissioner again. Let's shift gears to the environment.
Of course.
The Everglades, water safety, and the FPL nuclear plant at Turkey Point in Southwest Dade is in your new district, right?
Yeah.
You've been in the Senate for 6 years now. You were in the House previous to that, so you've represented a lot of Southwest Dade, but not specifically the plant before, right? So we had these problems early in the year in which you called for hearings, which was at the location there, and there are a lot of concern from consumers that FPL is not being responsible enough, and they're maybe even passing on the costs of cleaning up any environmental damage to us consumers.
Well,
what say you?
Well, the good news is that we've seen is that the moment that this became an issue to the public, as you mentioned, I called together a group of statewide leaders, senators from across the state, to come directly to Homestead, to listen directly to stakeholders from Homestead to Key West in talking about this issue. We had individuals there from FPL as well as the Department of Environmental Protection. And as a result of that meeting, there was a consent decree that came together between the Department of Environmental Protection and FPL, where FPL admitted that they were at fault and came up with a plan to reduce and eliminate this saltwater plume that they admitted that they created. And so as a result of that, there is now a plan where it's in 3 years that plume has to be stopped. And now they do say that within 10 years, it has to be totally extracted. 10 years is much too long, in my opinion. And so that's something that will play out in the legislative process over the next couple of years. But we have seen that the Public Service Commission, the PSC, which is the one who ultimately sets and approves the rates for FPL, they denied FPL's request to pass along that cost to consumers. They denied FPL's request to increase rates to an exorbitant amount, whereas we would have been left on the hook. So I see that as a strong consumer win, and whereas something that we're going to continue to move forward, and ultimately the solution to the issue in Turkey Point is to replace these outdated cooling canals, something that was en vogue perhaps 30 years ago, but doesn't make any environmental sense now, and replace that with cooling towers, which is the right way to do things if we're going to have nuclear power plants. And when we have those cooling towers, we see that the environmental risks are virtually eliminated.
Now, the critics of you will say that you've taken money from FPL before, they've given to your PAC. And you have said in the past that there have been cozy relationship between the legislators and the regulators and the FPL executives. How can voters trust that you're going to be able to stand up and do the right thing?
Well, because you judge me by my actions. You judge me by my actions. My actions and my record speak incredibly clear on this issue and virtually every single issue that I have consistently been on the side of consumers. The moment that this came forward, we said, let's get the folks from FPL down here directly and have them testify directly to senators to say what it is that they're doing. And as a result of that is how we came up with this consent decree and how we came up with the fact that FPL admitted that they had done something wrong. But for my leadership on this issue, we would not be where we are right now. And so I would ask voters on this and on every issue to judge me by my actions, to judge me by my lifelong commitment to this community in Senate District 39, and to judge me by those actions. And I think that clearly you'll see that I've always put the community first.
So let's turn to education, which is an issue near and dear to both of us and probably all of our viewers as well. Your opponent is running a commercial criticizing you for voting to support cuts in education, $500 million that occurred several years ago. You claim that you fought for increase in education funding. Some people say that you may favor more funding for charter schools over public schools. How do you sort that out and defend your record on public education?
Well, here's the fact. Again, my record on public education has been loud and clear. And when Miami-Dade County Public Schools over the years have needed a champion on their issues, the person that they've come to is me. I've been the person who has sponsored every piece of legislation that Miami-Dade County Public Schools has wanted and needed, whether it be a revamping of the Value Adjustment Board process to ensure that proper funding comes quickly and directly to our schools. I was the one that passed and sponsored that bill. Whether it be flexibility in giving public schools the opportunity to build schools at a cheaper way, something that was a priority of the school board, the person that they came to was me. When they needed help with passing a bilingual certification, the person who the school board went to was me. Why? Because I've been a leader for public education. So what are the facts? The fact is that yes, when there was a global recession that was felt all across the world, the legislature, along with all of us around our kitchen table, we had to make some very difficult decisions. And that resulted in cuts across the budgets because, quite frankly, there was less money in the global economy. But as soon as the economy has gotten back up, where have we put our priorities? We have increased education funding to historical levels.
Per pupil funding did go up to a Florida high this past year, but adjusted for inflation, we're still about $1,000 behind where we should be.
Well, but where are our students? Our students are performing in ways unseen in other parts of the country. When you compare us to places, for example, Washington, D.C., where they spend the most per pupil funding, their test scores or graduation rates lag woefully behind where our students are, because I'm proud of what Miami-Dade County Public School students have been able to do. They are able to succeed. They're able to graduate on time. Our graduation rates are going up every single day. Are we able to do more? Of course, we should always prioritize education, but that's why the education budget has and will always be the biggest part of the state budget and where we will continue to put as much funding as possible.
We only have a minute left, unfortunately. But let me ask you about the politics of it. The district, which you really didn't represent, you've never represented Monroe County before in all years in the legislature. The district was won by President Obama, 52% to 47 for Romney. With Trump on the ticket and the concern amongst Republicans maybe depressing the vote, what are you doing to counteract this and run in this new district?
Well, this new district has been my home for my life. It is where I was born and raised, where I've represented parts of this district for over 12 years, and I've been a leader on so many issues across the board for the last 12 years in my time. And so when this new district was expanded to Monroe County, I have been in Monroe County and in Homestead specifically for as many single events as I can. I've been in Monroe County almost once a week. The folks in Homestead, I have unanimous support, bipartisan support of all of the mayor and the members of the Council of Homestead, because these are individuals who have seen me at work, have seen how I have already delivered for that new part of the district, and how I will continue to do so.
All right, thank you. I'm sorry to end it there, but we're going to give equal time to both candidates.
Great, thank you.
All right, great. Thank you, Senator Flores, for joining us. Up next, we'll speak with the Democratic challenger, Debbie Mukersel-Powell. Stay with us.